So you've been learning, you've been studying, you've been watching, you've been reading a lot of English content, but somehow, despite all those efforts, you are still stuck. So it's actually not because you're not trying, because you've been doing all these things, but there are actually 4 deeper blocks that are keeping you stuck here that nobody talks about. So we're gonna talk about that in this video. So if you're in this video, that means you already understand English pretty well. You can actually understand my videos with or without subtitles. You can understand a lot of English movies, you can read a lot of English books or articles with no problems. But when it comes to speaking, you know you can speak in a lot of situations, but other situations, especially when you're under pressure, things just blank out. And you are so frustrated by this because you want to build that unconditional confidence and fluency where you can speak English no matter the situations and no matter the pressure, right? So when it comes to speaking, especially in situations that really matter, situations that are important, situations where you want to impress others or you want to make a good impression, you just get blocked. And somehow you can never get past this. So a lot of times when this happens, a lot of people start to misdiagnose themselves. But we're gonna talk about that later, or maybe in another video. Today, in this video, I wanna talk about why that happens. Because this block is not a block that you can simply fix with just practice more, or just learn more learn more words, or watch a lot more movies, or TV series, or read more books. Because if it were that simple, you wouldn't still be stuck. You wouldn't be in this position. In fact, a lot of intermediate learners like you, they're stuck not because they lack the English, they don't know enough words, or they don't understand enough, but it's more about the system. It's more about the processing that is happening in the head. And it's also because the 4 invisible blocks that I have not seen any other videos talk about. And once you understand these 4 blocks and you remove them, you're gonna finally feel your English flowing out again. So let's get into it. The first block is mindset block. And the mindset is the root of everything. And this is also one of the easier things, maybe not as easy, but like sometimes it's tricky for other people, but this is a pretty simple thing for you to solve. So at this point, as intermediates, you need to stop looking at yourself as someone who is learning English. You're gonna have to start seeing yourself as a user of English. So someone who actually uses English to learn through videos, or using English to watch tutorials, or watching English to have these small interactions with other people if you're living abroad. And these habits, even though they may help you when you were a beginner and an intermediate level, you need to slowly get rid of these. This is like memorizing words, focusing on grammar lists, being afraid to make mistakes, and thinking that you need to be perfect to speak, overthinking. Because back in school, when we were still taking English as lessons, we are taught a certain way. I would say the traditional way of learning languages. Learning for the purpose of passing an exam. Learning where you would have to get your grammar right in order for you to get a high grade in your exams. But in real life, it's a different set of skills that you need. So the biggest difference between seeing yourself as an English learner and an English user is that as an English learner, you see yourself separate from English. English is just a tool, or it's just a subject or a lesson that needs to be learned. Whereas if you are an English user, you see English as part of your world. You see English as a part of your identity. English is a language that I use to communicate with some coworkers living abroad. Or English is a language that I use to get entertained by watching Netflix shows or YouTube videos. English is the language that I use to play video games or to watch influencers or TikTokers. So you need to shift your identity as someone who uses English daily, imperfectly, and naturally. Because the moment you shift the way you see yourself, other things change. The way you approach English learning changes. So that is the simplest way that you can do to shift it. And also, these bad mindsets could lead you to block number 2, which is bad methods. So one very common mistake that I see a lot of people do is that they either go for the really academic route or the really passive route. So when they take the really academic route is when they take these classes, they follow the old school method where it's focus on the form, on the grammar, learning new words, or like new vocab memorization, grammar drills, or whatever. So this helps you in understanding the language, but it gets boring very quickly. When you see it as just a subject, it makes you not motivated to keep going, because it's like, oh, I wanna get away from that. I don't wanna learn anymore. Whereas the other extreme is the people who actually take the more passive way. Passive way as in they would learn English from their chosen movies or TV shows or YouTube videos or whatever it is that they enjoy learning from, but they don't really stop to think about how they can use it themselves. So yeah, these people, they get massive exposure to English, but they don't stop to think about the reasons behind it, the explanation, the grammar, and or how they can actually talk like this in real life. So they do not convert their massive input to output. And the best way to do it is to have a little bit of both, to have a balanced method where you get a lot of these massive exposures, where you can just watch English movies or videos for fun, but also at the same time, make some time to actually learn the language from your chosen content. So if let's say you were to watch an episode from a TV show, you would watch it one time for the story, and then after that you would take 20 minutes to rewatch the episode to truly understand how these native speakers would say these words. So a little bit of balance between the fun exposure and the deliberate learning. So that's why if your method is effective, this can easily shape your habits too. And habits are basically the things that you do daily that would make the biggest difference in your English. Which leads me to block number 3, and that is bad habits. The reason why a lot of people get stuck in their current level is because the habits, the things that they do daily to improve, are not really things that would reach them to their goal. Oftentimes, people don't even know what their goal is. They have just a very vague goal of like, I just want to become fluent in English. When you have a very broad goal like that, you don't really know how to reverse engineer it. You don't really know how to take the step back and figure out the steps that you need to get to that goal. So the first thing to adopt these good habits is for you to know what is it exactly that I want to achieve. You need to be a little bit more specific. So instead of just, I want to become fluent in English, you can be, I want to be able to speak about my current work, my current responsibilities to my boss so that I can impress them, so that I can actually get a higher salary or something. Or that I want to be able to speak English more confidently so that I could carry myself with confidence during job interviews and land a job. Or maybe I want to be able to speak English more confidently, more naturally, and more myself so that I can find it, it would be a lot easier for me to make friends when I'm living in Australia. Like whatever it is, you need to be very specific with your goal, because only when you are specific with your goal, then we can think about the habits that you need to get to that goal. If your goal is, let's say, to be able to speak more fluently about your work, then the things that you need to practice and is speaking more about your work, speaking about different areas of your work. Or if your goal is to just simply be able to understand what is going on in the movies, then maybe you don't have to do a lot of speaking practice. You just need to do a lot of active listening exercises so you can understand a lot of movies without subtitles. Or maybe your goal is to be able to have more confident, casual conversations with your coworkers because you're living abroad. Then maybe you need to do a little bit more dialogues. You need to watch a lot more dialogues and try to learn more conversational skills. And also, one thing that is very, very important to create good habits is to actually find a way to learn English where it's enjoyable for you. And this also starts with the good materials or good content, right? Which is something that we briefly talked in block number two, which is the method. So good materials, good content follows the acronym CAR, C-A-R. Good materials is challenging. So it's content that you understand the big picture, but you don't fully understand the words that they use. And authentic is basically content that is made by native speakers for an audience of native speakers. So you don't really want to watch videos where it's optimized for learners. such as, let's say, a video like this. So I speak in a way that is very slow and I use simple words, and my English is very much understandable to students. And this is not authentic content. You want to start getting used to content that is made by native speakers for an audience of native speakers. So the kind of content that where the English is not simplified. And R is basically relevant. So relevant content means that content that you actually enjoy watching, or content that is actually related to your end goal. So if your goal is to be able to speak more fluently at work, then you're gonna have to watch or read a lot of content that is relevant to your career so that you can speak more fluently about that. Or content that you find enjoyable, content that you actually want to keep watching over and over again, which makes English exposure a lot more of a natural part of your day. If you find enjoyable content, you're not gonna find resistance to push yourself to watch these, to expose yourself to English. So this is why it's very important for you to find content or materials that are enjoyable, so it's easier for you to build these good habits. So it is very important to build these good habits, to build the right habits. Because imagine, if your habits aren't right, then your results are also not right. You could be trying every single day, like you're doing now, but if the results don't show, you're gonna start to feel discouraged. You're gonna keep putting all this effort, but you're gonna keep doing the wrong things. You're gonna keep practicing the wrong way. And what happens when you keep doing it and you're not getting it right? You're gonna start to doubt yourself. And these doubts is where blind spots would form, which is the fourth block. Blind spots. So blind spots happen when you keep on putting the effort to get better, but you're focusing on the wrong things. You're doing the wrong practice. You're solving the wrong problems. So this is something that I see very often in people who try to apply to my program, English Sprint Academy. So in order to join the program, I would have to invite them to an interview to get to know their problems a little deeper, a little better. So usually when I ask them, what is your biggest English challenge right now? Many people would say, oh, I can't speak English very well because I lack the vocabulary. And then only when I start speaking English with them, did it become very clear that the problem is not because they don't know enough words, but it's because they're mentally translating. They're processing English inefficiently, or they get a little bit nervous, so they completely shut down. So this is very common that people misdiagnose themselves. And this is what I mean by blind spots. Sometimes you have a problem, but you are not fully sure what the root cause of it is. So one thing that will help you a lot to not misdiagnose yourself too badly is to know the difference between a process challenge and a problem challenge. So I made a video about this like last time, but I'm going to tell you very briefly what the difference is. A process challenge is basically challenges that you face that is normal, that is just part of the process. For instance, like forgetting a word in the middle of a sentence, like let's say you just learned this word 2 days ago and then suddenly you're forgetting it immediately. This may make you feel discouraged, but this is actually something that is very normal. The process of storing a new word in your long-term memory is going through the process of forgetting and remembering it again and forgetting and remembering. So the more practice, the more reps you do, the better it gets. So think of a process challenge as just a little bump, like a speed bump on the road, It slows you down a little bit, but you're still on the right track to reaching your goal. Whereas a problem challenge are challenges that actually needs fixing, that you actually need to remove this problem in order for you to reach your end goal. Think of it as like a barrier in the middle of a road, like you're driving and then you see that there's a roadblock, and the only way for you to get to your destination is to find an alternate route, or just, like a pedal back or something, or they would have to remove the barrier for you to keep going. So an example of a problem challenge would be always practicing English in easy mode. So let's say from block number 3, you've already gotten clear on your goal, and it's to be able to talk about yourself professionally so that you can get more confident in interviews or in work settings, basically. But the practice and exercises that you do daily is just easy exercises. you're just like watching comfortable content, maybe TV shows on Netflix or just some short videos on social media, or maybe like you talk to friends about easy, casual things that you always talk about, or maybe reviewing things that you already know very well, but you never practice the English that you actually need. For interviews or professionally, you never challenge yourself to talk about work. So even if you practice every single day, you speak English every day, you expose yourself to English very often, you're still not improving. You're practicing the wrong thing in the wrong environment, which means that no matter how much effort you put in, you're not going to improve. And unless somebody points out this blind spot of yours, you're never going to improve. And the danger is, yes, danger, it's a little dramatic, but it's real. If you keep on pushing through a problem challenge without fixing the real issue, the root cause, the root problem, it's gonna keep you in the same place for months or even years, despite everything, every effort you put in to improve. And this is how blind spots are created. So blind spots can be solved with a few things. One of them being a deep self-awareness. You really have to understand and to be honest and to know that you're doing the wrong thing for you to course correct. But you really need to be honest and be self-aware. Or you can educate yourself using videos like this, or do a lot of research yourself, or using trial and error, but that requires a lot of time, a lot of effort, and also a lot of energy. Another way, the fastest way, is to actually for you to have someone experienced enough to point out the real issues for you, either an expert or a coach. Whatever the solution that you choose, you have to get rid of this blind spot. Because if you keep on putting the effort and you don't see progress, you're gonna start thinking that the problem is you, that you are incompetent, lazy, or just not a language person, which is a very, very bad mindset to have, which then leads to the first block that we talked from the beginning, bad mindset or bad beliefs about yourself. And then the cycle starts again. These blind spots would create these bad mindsets, and these bad mindsets could lead to bad method. Bad method creates bad habits, and the bad habits create you the blind spot, and then the cycle, the vicious cycle, gets you stuck in the intermediate plateau. So if you find yourself in this plateau for years and you are sick of staying here, make sure that you check out the program English Sprint Academy, because we are opening our new cohort starting January. So if you want to start the year right, make sure to apply. If you are an expat living abroad or a professional that really need to speak English at work, this is for you. So I hope that this video enlightens you, it sheds a lot of light on you, and that you're gonna take the next step to really improve your English in the beginning of the year. So you wanna take advantage of this momentum of the end of the year and the new year. And yeah, so thank you for watching till the end. I will see you next time on another video. Until then, take care and bye-bye.